Fantastic Four First Steps is on the horizon, and there's a lot more beneath the surface than just a simple reboot. In this 2 hours big video, we're breaking down everything you need to know before the movie drops. The story setup, major leaks, the Doctor Doom connection, and how Galactus is set to shake up the MCU. We'll also dive into the rumored post-credit scenes featuring Reed Richards and Doom's first face-off, plus some wild fan theories that actually make sense. And of course, we've got the latest updates you won't want to miss. This is your complete guide to Marvel's most anticipated Phase 6 project. So let's jump right in. First, we'll dissect the bone-chilling post-credit scene rumor that could put Doctor Doom on a collision course with the team. According to multiple unverified sources, the final moments of the film cut to the Baxter building. We see Vanessa Kirby's Sue Storm, the Invisible Woman, with her infant son, Franklin Richards. Now, the idea of Sue's pregnancy being a plot point is itself a major leak, so this scene already feels like a peaceful payoff. Sue gets up for a moment and the camera lingers on the baby. And that's when everything changes. When Sue returns, she isn't alone. Sitting right beside Franklin's crib is a figure in a deep green cloak. In one hand, he reportedly holds his iconic, cold, iron mask. His face is obscured, but the presence is unmistakable. Doctor Doom. He isn't there to fight. He's there to observe. Now let's address the elephant in the room. The absolutely wild rumor that this hooded figure is played by Robert Downey Jr. We have to be crystal clear here. As of right now, this is one of the biggest and most exciting, but also entirely unverified rumors in MCU history. Marvel has not confirmed it. The major Hollywood trades have not confirmed it, but the whispers persist. The implications are obviously staggering. To bring back the face of the MCU, the man who was Iron Man, and cast him as the universe's next ultimate villain is a bold meta move that almost feels too wild to be true. But in the multiverse saga, what is too wild? This opens up a million questions. Is this a variant of Tony Stark who became Doom? Or, as some theories suggest, is this the Victor Von Doom of this new universe who just so happens to have the same face as our Tony Stark? This would create a deeply unsettling conflict for every hero who fought alongside Iron Man. Imagine the heroes of Earth 616 coming face to face with a man who wears their greatest hero's face but has the soul of their greatest enemy. But the rumor gets even more interesting. Some versions claim that Doom is completely silent, his presence alone being the threat. In another version, he reportedly speaks not to Sue, but to the infant Franklin, hinting at the boy's immense potential and Doom's own obsession with harnessing ultimate power. This all hinges on Franklin Richards. In the comics, Franklin isn't just a super-powered kid, he is essentially a god. He's an Omega-level mutant with the power to warp reality and create entire universes. During the 2015 Secret Wars storyline, it was Franklin's power that Reed Richards used to rebuild the entire multiverse. He's a walking reset button. This is why, in theory, Doom would be there. Doom has always craved the power to reorder the universe to his will. In Franklin Richards, he wouldn't just see a weapon, he'd see the key to remaking reality in his own image. His rumored presence in that nursery isn't just a threat to the Fantastic Four, it's a threat to the entire multiverse, and a potential first move in the chess match leading to Secret Wars. This post-credit scene, if it's even real, would change everything. We thought the big threat was Kang, but this rumor suggests that in the quiet of a child's bedroom, the true big bad is just getting started. Let's move from a completely unconfirmed rumor at the end of the film to a fan theory from the middle of it, hidden in plain sight in the trailer. While a post-credit scene might show us a consequence, the trailer might be showing us the cause. The marketing for Fantastic Four has been masterful. It sold us on a vibe, a charming, retro-futuristic 1960s adventure. It feels like a safe palate cleanser, but that might be a misdirection. Hidden in the trailer is a shot of Pedro Pascal's Reed Richards before a massive, chaotic chalkboard. At first glance, it looks like your typical genius at work scene, but if you look closer, as many online fans have, you start to see something more. This might not just be astrophysics, it could be multiversal theory. Fan breakdowns of the board's diagrams have led to speculation that Reed is mapping out a multiversal bridge. There appear to be diagrams showing an entrance and an exit labeled Another Universe. This has led to a huge debate. Is Reed Richards the MCU's savior, or is he the one who kicks off the catastrophe? Let's look at the savior theory. In this version, Reed is the only one smart enough to understand the multiversal decay started in Loki. He sees the incursions and believes he can build a lifeboat, a bridge to another universe, to find a way to save his own from threats like Galactus. But then, there's the darker, more compelling argument. Reed Richards is the catalyst. One of the most popular unconfirmed rumors is a line of dialogue where Reed says, "It's my fault. I stretched the bounds of space, and they heard." If that line is real, it reframes everything. It suggests Reed's experiments acted as a beacon. He knocked on the door of the multiverse, and something terrible answered: Galactus. This would make him a much more tragic figure, a man whose genius is also his greatest curse. This theory suggests his work on the chalkboard is what causes the multiversal problems to escalate to a breaking point. He's not just solving a problem, he is the problem. This ties directly to Galactus and his herald, the Silver Surfer. It is officially confirmed that Julia Garner is playing a version of the Silver Surfer named Shalabal. Now, let's layer on an unconfirmed leak. Some rumors suggest that Shalabal's transformation into the Surfer happens after she traverses a wormhole, perhaps a prototype of Reed's own multiversal bridge. If that pans out, Reed's science would be directly responsible for creating one of the movie's key threats. This chalkboard conspiracy could be a narrative bomb. It would tie Reed Richards' personal journey directly to the fate of the entire multiverse, elevating this film from a simple origin story to a personal tragedy with cosmic consequences. We've talked about a rumored ending and a trailer theory, but what about the beginning? For that, we have to turn to the world of plot leaks. We need to start this with a huge grain of salt. Reports have surfaced about a secret fan screening where the first 30 minutes of the film were shown. As of now, these reports are completely unsubstantiated and appear to be based on social media rumors. But the details that have emerged from these leaks are consistent and too interesting to ignore. First, let's talk about Reed Richards. The leaks suggest Pedro Pascal is playing a Reed who is confident, decisive, and firmly in command. This isn't a man stumbling into heroism. This is the established leader of a family of explorers, whose confidence might be the source of the problem. Second, the visuals. The leaks describe the retro-futuristic world building as incredible, and the action with Julia Garner's Silver Surfer as insane. People are comparing the cosmic scenes to the scale of Star Wars, suggesting this will be ambitious, spectacular science fiction. But the most important piece of information from these leaks is the film's emotional core. According to these rumors, the central plot of the opening revolves around Sue Storm and her son Franklin. This isn't just a side plot, it's presented as the heart of the story. The film supposedly opens with the team already established before focusing on the personal story of Sue's pregnancy. This would change everything. It suggests Fantastic Four isn't primarily about stopping a space god from eating a planet. It's about a family trying to protect its newest member. It grounds the cosmic stakes in the most relatable human emotion, a parent's love for their child. And according to the most explosive part of these leaks, this is precisely why Galactus is there. The rumor is that Galactus isn't just hungry for a planet, he's specifically targeting Franklin Richards. The why is still a mystery. Does he sense the boy's immense latent power? Does he need to consume that power, or does he see the child as a potential heir? Whatever the reason, this rumor, if true, would make the conflict intensely personal. It gives the Fantastic Four a motivation far more powerful than just saving the world. They are fighting for their son. These alleged plot details suggest that Marvel understands the Fantastic Four are a family first and heroes second. So, what does this all mean when you put it together? What is the grand narrative that these three pieces of speculation, the post-credit rumor, the chalkboard theory, and the plot leaks are painting for us? It's a picture of a carefully constructed trap. This movie may not be a standalone story, but a setup for the future of Marvel storytelling, and it could work like this. First, the cause. Revelation 2, the chalkboard conspiracy. Driven by intellect and hubris, Reed punches a hole in the multiverse, which acts as a cosmic dinner bell for Galactus. The main conflict of the film is born from Reed's own actions. Second, the stakes. Revelation 3, the rumored opening act. We learn that Galactus's arrival isn't random. He is there specifically for Franklin Richards. This personalizes the threat and establishes Franklin, a mere infant, as a being of immense cosmic importance. And third, the endgame. Revelation 1, the rumored post-credit scene. After the battle with Galactus is won, the real villain makes his move. Dr. Doom appears in Franklin's nursery. This chilling final scene would reveal that Galactus was never the ultimate threat. Doom, however, is a strategist. He may have watched the whole conflict unfold, and when the dust settled, he came to collect the prize, Franklin Richards himself. Put it all together, and you see the shape of the theory. Fantastic Four could introduce the key players and the central artifact for the entire multiverse saga. Reed Richards would be the unwitting catalyst, Galactus would be the misdirection, and Franklin Richards would be the living MacGuffin whose reality-warping powers are the ultimate prize. Director Matt Shakman has been pretty direct in interviews. When he was asked if Dr. Doom is in the movie, he said, "Doom is not a part of my film, and therefore not a part of my purview." Now, on the surface, that sounds like case closed. But this is Marvel we're talking about. Not a part of my film is very specific language, and it leaves open a huge intentional loophole, the post-credits scene. This is a classic Marvel move. Post-credit scenes are often handled by different creative teams specifically to set up future movies. Think about the end of Ant-Man. That post-credit scene was literally just a clip from the next movie on the slate, Captain America: Civil War. More recently, there are even strong rumors that the post-credit scene for Thunderbolts wasn't directed by that film's director, Jake Schreier, but by the team behind a future Avengers film. This allows a director like Matt Shakman to tell the complete truth. Dr. Doom isn't in his movie, but a scene setting up a future Avengers film and featuring its main villain could easily be attached to the end of his. It's a classic piece of Marvel misdirection, letting them keep the surprise without technically lying. And honestly, a strategy like this is necessary. Kevin Feige and the people at Marvel Studios get how important a character like Victor Von Doom is. He's not just some monster of the week. In the comics, he's the ultimate rival to the Fantastic Four. A man whose genius rivals Reed Richards's, but is matched only by his ego. And he's so much more than that. He's a scientific master, a sorcerer who could give Doctor Strange a run for his money, and the ruler of his own country, Latveria. This is a man who has challenged gods and literally reshaped reality. You don't just shoehorn a character like that into the final act of someone else's story. You give him the entrance he deserves. You build him up. Remember the Infinity Saga. We first saw Thanos in the post-credits scene of the Avengers back in 2012. He was just a silent, purple threat, a promise of something worse to come. Then he popped up again in Guardians of the Galaxy and the post-credits of Age of Ultron. By the time Infinity War came around 6 years later, everyone understood the weight of his arrival. Marvel is playing the long game again. They've said Doom is being kept on the bench, but the multiverse saga is getting close to its finale. The Fantastic Four is one of the last stops before Avengers Doomsday. There just isn't much time left to wait. Teasing him now, at the end of his greatest enemy's first film, would be the perfect callback to the Thanos strategy. It establishes him as the saga's true villain without hijacking the story of Galactus. It's the most logical, strategically sound move Marvel could possibly make. Okay, so let's move from the why to the how. This is where we have to wade into the ocean of online rumors and industry chatter, and it's important to remember that most of this is just speculation. But when you start connecting the dots, a pretty compelling picture starts to take shape. The biggest what if floating around the internet, of course, is the wild rumor that Robert Downey Jr. could return to the MCU, but this time as Dr. Doom. This is a fan theory that sounds crazy at first, the actor who defined the MCU's greatest hero playing its next great villain, but the more you think about it, the more poetic it becomes. The man who played a futurist billionaire in a suit of armor returning as a tyrannical monarch in a suit of armor. It's not just stunt casting, it's a thematic grand slam, creating a story that instantly gives Doom a sense of fallen grace. While it's just a rumor, it's one that has captured the imagination of fans, and it speaks to the level of actor needed for a character this complex. So how could this tie into the Fantastic Four? This is where the online leaks come into play. For months, persistent rumors have described a specific post-credits scene. The details change a little depending on where you look, but the core of the rumor is always the same. The scene involves Dr. Doom and Franklin Richards, the son of Reed and Sue. In one popular version, Sue Storm is in a nursery with her son. She turns away for just a second, and when she looks back, a man in a green cloak holding a metal mask is standing over the crib. We don't see his face, but the implication is absolutely terrifying. A scene like that would be powerful for a few reasons. First, it makes Doom an immediate, personal threat to the Fantastic Four's family. Second, it targets Franklin Richards, who, in the comics, is a reality-warping mutant and one of the most powerful beings in the entire Marvel universe. A Doom who already knows about Franklin's potential is a Doom who is thinking on a multiversal level. According to these rumors, Doom's master plan might involve using Franklin's power, which is exactly what he did in the 2015 Secret Wars comic, where he used Franklin's abilities to help create his own reality, Battleworld. Now let's connect this to another breadcrumb from the rumor mill, a supposed post-credits scene for Thunderbolts. In that rumored scene, the Fantastic Four's ship, the Excelsior, apparently arrives on Earth 616. This has led to some fascinating fan theories. If the Fantastic Four's home universe is destroyed by Galactus, which seems like a real possibility, what if Doom hijacks their ship to escape, maybe with Franklin Richards? This would explain his arrival in the main MCU timeline and what drives him. He wouldn't show up as a conqueror, but as a refugee. A very well-informed refugee who has seen a universe die and is obsessed with stopping it from happening again, no matter the cost. He could even pretend to be an ally, warning Earth's heroes about Galactus and incursions, all while secretly manipulating them to achieve his true goal, total power. All right, we are officially deep in the multiversal rabbit hole, connecting threads from all over the MCU. If you're digging this kind of breakdown, do me a huge favor and hit that subscribe button. We're always sifting through the latest rumors and comic lore to figure out what's coming next. Subscribing is the best way to make sure you don't miss our future videos on Secret Wars and the X-Men. Now, let's get back to the blueprint for Doom's rise. To really get why this Dr. Doom theory is so compelling, you have to look at the comics that have clearly inspired the entire multiverse saga. Jonathan Hickman's epic run on Fantastic Four and Avengers, which all led to 2015's Secret Wars. This isn't just a bunch of stories, it's the definitive modern saga of the Marvel multiverse, and its fingerprints are all over the MCU. And at the center of that whole epic is one man, Victor Von Doom. Hickman's run portrayed Reed Richards and Victor Von Doom as two sides of the same coin. Both are geniuses. Both are driven by a powerful belief in their own intelligence, and both are trying to solve the universe's biggest problems. The difference is their philosophy. Reed believes in teamwork, family, and hope. Doom believes humanity is flawed and chaotic, and the only way to achieve true peace is for one superior mind, his own, to take control. Great villains always believe they're the heroes of their own story, and nobody embodies that more than Dr. Doom. Hickman's story is all about incursions, alternate universes colliding and being destroyed, which is the exact crisis happening in the MCU. In the comics, Reed Richards forms the Illuminati to try and stop it, but they make compromises, and in the end, they fail. But you know who succeeds? Dr. Doom. While the heroes are scrambling, Doom, with help from Molecule Man and Doctor Strange, comes up with a plan that is both horrifying and brilliant. He takes on the all-powerful beings causing the incursions, steals their power, and when everything is destroyed, he salvages the broken pieces of dead universes and forges them into a single new reality, Battleworld. On Battleworld, he's not Dr. Doom anymore. He is God Emperor Doom. He is the law. He saved what was left of reality, but he erased free will to do it. This is the core of his character. A savior who is also a tyrant, a hero in his own mind who is a villain to everyone else. This comic storyline lines up perfectly with the post-credits theory. A Doom who escapes a dying universe would arrive on Earth 616 with one single-minded goal: to get enough power to stop it from happening again. That's where his interest in Franklin Richards would come from. That's why he might hunt down other reality warpers like Wanda Maximoff or America Chavez. He's not just grabbing power for fun, he's doing it because he believes he is the only one smart enough and strong enough to make the hard choices necessary to save all of existence. To him, the heroes and their morals are just getting in the way. This is why starting his MCU story as a manipulative refugee would be so perfect. He can play the part of a dark, tragic reflection of Reed Richards, maybe even earning the trust of some heroes. He could share his knowledge of cosmic threats, making himself seem indispensable, all while he's secretly gathering resources and planning his master stroke. When he finally shows his true colors in Avengers Doomsday, it won't feel sudden. It will be the final move in a long game that began the moment he first appeared in the shadows of a Fantastic Four post-credits scene. If this theory, or something like it, actually holds true, it completely reframes the rest of the multiverse saga. The focus would shift from a chaotic force like Kang to a single, brilliant, and terrifyingly personal antagonist. It gives us a clear road to Avengers, Doomsday, and Avengers Secret Wars. Let's imagine that road. Doom arrives on Earth 616. He's a king without a kingdom, but he has his mind, his magic, and knowledge of a universal apocalypse. The Fantastic Four, if they also escaped, might vouch for his genius, even as they warn everyone not to trust him. He could become a shadowy advisor, pushing for extreme measures to fight the incursions and telling everyone that their half measures are doomed to fail, just like they did in his reality. His main goal would be getting more power. We talked about Franklin Richards, but think bigger. In the comics, Doom's power is a mix of science and magic. We could see him hunting for magical artifacts from Kamar Taj, or trying to reverse engineer technology from Wakanda or what's left of Stark Industries. There's even a fan theory that a version of Doom played by Robert Downey Jr. might literally try to become the new Iron Man, twisting Tony Stark's legacy into something much darker by arguing he's the only one fit to protect the world now. Avengers: Doomsday then becomes the movie where the heroes finally figure it all out. They realize the ally who was helping them has actually been setting them up for his own takeover. The Doomsday in the title wouldn't just be about the multiverse ending, but about the day Doom makes his play. The end of that film could see him finally seizing the power he's been after, defeating the Avengers not with brute force, but with strategy, by being 10 steps ahead of them the entire time. That would lead right into Avengers: Secret Wars, which would open on a world already changed. Battle World, a patchwork planet made from dead universes ruled by God Emperor Doom. The surviving heroes would be fugitives in a world where Doom is God, and the entire movie would be a rebellion to overthrow a tyrant who thinks he's their savior. This entire arc, starting with a quiet and creepy post-credits scene, gives the MCU everything it needs for its next epic. It gives us a villain with deep personal ties to the heroes. It raises the stakes from the fate of one universe to the fate of all reality. And if the wild rumors about Robert Downey Jr. were to ever come true, it would create this powerful, tragic echo, forcing everyone to confront the shadow of Tony Stark's legacy. This path would give Dr. Doom the incredible introduction he deserves. So what does this all add up to? While Galactus is almost certainly the big threat in the Fantastic Four, it feels like the real main course is being saved for last. A lot of signs, from Marvel's own history with post-credit scenes to the persistent online rumors, all point toward a fascinating possibility. Victor Von Doom is coming, and his arrival could completely redefine the multiverse saga. Director Matt Shakman can be telling the truth that Doom isn't in his film, while another team quietly plants the seed for the epic finale in the movie's final seconds. It's a theory about a carefully laid plan to introduce a villain who is more than a match for the Avengers. A manipulative genius who might show up as a refugee only to reveal himself as a would-be god. The comic book blueprint is right there in Jonathan Hickman's iconic run, promising a conflict that will test the heroes in every way imaginable. This isn't just wishful thinking, it's about connecting the dots of a puzzle Marvel might be laying out right in front of us. The first step for the Fantastic Four may actually be the first step into the Age of Doom. The Fantastic Four are being introduced at a really specific point, right before Avengers: Doomsday and Secret Wars. That's not a coincidence. In the comics, they're essential to multiversal events. Reed Richards isn't just some genius, he's one of the smartest beings in the universe. And in the MCU, intelligence is currency. Think about it, Tony Stark built the foundation of the modern Marvel universe. Shuri is unlocking the secrets of vibranium. Doom is trying to rule and control time itself. So why bring Reed, Sue, Ben, and Johnny in now? Because Marvel needs a new brain trust, a new power center, and potentially a new threat. Now, if you're wondering what the plot of the Fantastic Four movie might look like, let's zoom in. Because Marvel's been dropping hints for months. From casting to concept art leaks, there's a growing belief that this movie won't be an origin story in the traditional sense. We're not going to see them go into space, get hit with cosmic rays, and slowly learn their powers. That's been done. Instead, Marvel seems to be rewriting their origin through time. Literally. There are huge hints that this version of the Fantastic Four might come from another time period, possibly even the 1960s. Why does that matter? Because it means they're outsiders, displaced in time. Their morality, their science, even their style, it's retro-futuristic. They might have been operating as superheroes long before the Avengers were ever assembled, but no one knew because they were in another reality, or trapped in the quantum realm, or even protected by the TVA. This is where the theory gets crazy. What if the Fantastic Four weren't just lost in time? What if they were hidden on purpose? Think about Loki Season 2. The TVA is obsessed with pruning timelines. We now know Kang, or a variant of him, was running that show. What if Kang knew that Reed Richards posed a threat to him and orchestrated events to erase the Fantastic Four before they ever became a problem? That would explain why they're just now re-emerging. And it sets up a plot where the movie isn't just about them getting powers. It's about reclaiming their identity. Imagine this. Reed Richards and his team remember their past. They remember saving the world, building technologies, maybe even fighting Doom. But now, they've been dumped into the main MCU timeline, and no one knows who they are. Boom. Instant conflict. They're outsiders in a world that's changed. Tony's dead. Steve's gone. S.H.I.E.L.D. is dust. S.W.O.R.D. is weirdly secretive. And Reed Richards is realizing the future he thought he helped build doesn't exist. But then it gets worse. Because somewhere, lurking in the shadows of this new world, is Victor Von Doom. Let's pause there. Because Doom isn't just some villain. He's not a one-off baddie with a tragic backstory and cool armor. He's a force of nature. In the comics, Doom is a king, a sorcerer, and a scientist on Reed's level, or beyond. He rules Latveria with an iron fist, not just through tech, but through fear, myth, and power. And crucially, in Secret Wars, the event that the MCU is hurtling toward, it's Doom, not Kang, who becomes God Emperor of the multiverse. Yeah, let that sink in. So if Marvel's long game is Secret Wars, then Doom isn't just a possibility. He's inevitable. So how does he enter? Let's go back to that post-credit scene theory. Imagine this. The Fantastic Four spend the whole movie trying to fix something. Maybe it's a temporal collapse. Maybe it's a multiversal incursion. Maybe they're trying to stop a cosmic entity like Annihilus, or the negative zone is leaking into the timeline. Whatever the case, they save the day. But in the final moments, a portal opens. Not a flashy Kang-style temporal door. No, something ancient, runic, crackling with green energy and symbols we've never seen before. A figure steps through, cloaked, unafraid. He surveys the new timeline. He smiles, and then we hear it. I've seen the future, and it kneels before Doom. Cut to black. Post-credit perfection. Here's why this makes sense. If the Fantastic Four were erased from time, so was Doom. Maybe even especially Doom. Because if Kang feared Reed Richards, he dreaded Doom. This means Doom has been trapped or biding his time, watching, waiting, building. And now that the multiverse is cracking and the TVA is collapsing, he sees his moment. Now let's really stretch this theory. What if Doom isn't just arriving in the post-credits? What if he's been pulling strings the whole movie? Maybe the anomaly the Four are trying to stop, the rift or cosmic event, isn't random. Maybe it's something Doom set in motion from the shadows. He knows that in order to reclaim his power, he needs Reed Richards back in the game. Because Doom doesn't just want to rule the world. He wants to defeat Reed, on his terms, in public, completely. There's a poetic obsession between Reed and Victor. Doom sees himself as better, always, and yet Reed constantly outwits him. It drives Doom to madness. He doesn't just want to win, he wants to be recognized as superior. So imagine the Fantastic Four win the day, and Doom still gets exactly what he wanted. They're back. He's ready, and the universe is his. That sets up Secret Wars in a way no Kang storyline can. Because Doom doesn't need variants. He doesn't need timelines. He just takes. So let's answer the question, why introduce Doom in a post-credit scene and not the main story? Because Doom demands his own stage. You don't blow your best card in the first act. You let Kang take center stage, let the Avengers scramble, let timelines implode, and then, when there's nothing left to hold it all together, Doom arrives. He doesn't fight for balance. He doesn't pretend to save anything. He just reshapes the universe in his image. And here's the crazy part. Comic readers already know that in Secret Wars 2015, Doom wins. He literally becomes the god of Battleworld. He tears down reality and builds his own. Not through Kang-style technology, but through raw power and will. He steals the power of the Beyonders. He rules over everyone. X-Men, Avengers, even cosmic entities like Galactus and Molecule Man. That's the long game. So the Fantastic Four movie? It's the spark, the missing piece. The restoration of one of Marvel's most essential dynamics, Reed versus Doom. And it all starts with a post-credit scene. Now let's take a minute to talk about how Marvel might portray Doom, because this matters. If you look at recent casting rumors and concept pitches, it seems like they're moving away from the cartoonish takes of the past. No more metal mask over a blogger's face. No more corporate scientist with vague motives. We're talking regal. We're talking armor forged through science and sorcery. A man who commands armies, not PR firms. A man who doesn't care if the Avengers exist, because they're beneath him. This Doom could be set up across multiple phases. Maybe he builds Latveria in the shadows. Maybe he negotiates with broken governments post-blip. Maybe he manipulates the Kree, the Skrulls, even leftover Stark tech. Remember, Doom steals the Silver Surfer's power in the comics. He outwits Mephisto. He rewrites the multiverse. He's not a one-movie villain. He's the next Thanos, but scarier. Because he doesn't think he's saving the world. He thinks he owns it. And Marvel knows that. That's why this post-credit scene is crucial. It plants the seed. It warns us. And it gives fans a glimpse of what's coming. So if you've been wondering why so little is known about the Fantastic Four plot, this is why. It's not just about four people with powers. It's about legacy, about a war that spans time, reality, and ideology. Reed Richards represents possibility. Doom represents control. And the MCU is about to choose. The time since Tony Stark snapped his fingers has been a rocky road for the MCU. Avengers Endgame wasn't just a movie, it was a cultural lightning strike. The finale of a story told with unprecedented patience. It was so big, so final, that when the credits rolled, the question hanging in the air was, what now? For a lot of us, the answer has been pretty unsatisfying. The multiverse saga, the grand follow-up to the Infinity Saga, has often felt scattered. We were promised a war with a new Thanos-level threat, Kang the Conqueror. But that whole storyline has been hit with real-world issues and narrative stumbles that left the saga feeling like a ship without a captain. Instead of one clear threat growing in the shadows, we got a collection of stories. Some were incredible, don't get me wrong, Spider-Man, No Way Home, and Guardians of the Galaxy Volumes. 3 were masterpieces. But they felt like standalone wins, not pieces of a bigger puzzle. More often, we got projects that split the fan base, with shaky CGI, messy tones, and a story so bloated it became overwhelming. The excitement was replaced by a sense of obligation. Keeping up with the MCU started to feel less like a hobby and more like a part-time job, where you had to watch everything or risk missing some tiny crucial detail. That's the real superhero fatigue. It's not that we're tired of heroes, we're tired of stories that feel like they're spinning their wheels. The MCU's promise was always that everything mattered, that every piece was building towards something epic. Post-Endgame, that promise felt broken. The universe seemed fractured, not just in its plot, but in its very soul. There was no clear leader for the Avengers, no obvious big bad pulling the strings, and no single goal for our heroes to fight for. The magic was fading, replaced by a content machine. We were all left asking one simple question: where is this all going? Well, Marvel seems to have heard the complaints, and their answer isn't another team-up or a standalone sequel. Their answer is a return to the foundation. Their answer is the family that started it all in the comics back in 1961. Before we get to the solution, we have to understand just how big the problem is. It's bigger than a few weak movies. The real crisis bubbling under the surface of this whole saga is the total collapse of reality itself. We got our first terrifying glimpse of this in Doctor Strange in the multiverse of madness with incursions, where two universes smash into each other, wiping one or both from existence. It's an apocalypse that makes Thanos' snap look like a minor setback. Then Loki Season 2 showed us the temporal loom, the machine weaving all of time together, failing catastrophically. Loki's fix wasn't to repair the machine, it was to become it. He's now a living god, holding infinite timelines together with sheer force of will. It's a beautiful, tragic ending for him, but it leaves the multiverse in a terrifyingly fragile state. It's no longer a managed system. It's a chaotic, infinite web of worlds held together by one person. What happens when that balance finally breaks? This is where the stage is set for the true architect of the coming storm, the villain who makes Thanos look short-sighted, Dr. Doom. To get why Doom is the ultimate threat, you have to look at the comics. Victor Von Doom isn't some alien tyrant. He's a man from Earth, a genius scientist, a master sorcerer, and the absolute ruler of the nation of Latveria. His story is tied forever to one person, Reed Richards. They were rivals in college, two of the smartest people alive, but with one critical difference. Reed is driven by discovery for the good of humanity. Victor is driven by ego, power, and the absolute conviction that only he can bring order to the chaos of the universe. A reckless experiment to contact another dimension blew up in his face, leaving him scarred. But the damage to his pride was far worse. Blaming Reed for the failure, he exiled himself, mastering both science and the mystic arts. He returned wearing impenetrable armor and a cold iron mask, took over his homeland, and became Dr. Doom, a man with the mind of a super genius and magic that could rival Doctor Strange. His goal was never just conquest. It's order, a perfect universe, created in his image, ruled by his iron will. He truly believes he's the hero of his own story. And in the 2015 Secret Wars comic, he actually succeeds. As the multiverse collapses from incursions, Doom steals the power of the godlike Beyonders, saves the scraps of dying realities, and smashes them together into a single planet, Battle World. And on the throne sits God Emperor Doom, the absolute ruler of everything that's left. This is the kind of threat that's likely looming over the MCU. Not just a villain who wants to rule the universe, but a man who wants to become its god. The current chaos of the multiverse gives him the perfect opening. This leads to the next film in the saga, the aptly titled Avengers Doomsday. The theory goes that Doom's plan is already in motion. He sees the multiverse crumbling and plans to accelerate the collapse, surviving the end of everything so he can remake reality from the ashes. He is the storm. And the only people who have a real chance of stopping him, the only ones who truly know the man behind the mask, are the family he despises more than anyone. This all leads us to July 25, 2025, and the release of The Fantastic Four. This movie seems to be far more than just another origin story. It's the starting pistol for the entire finale of the multiverse saga. In fact, Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige himself has said that the events of this film will lead directly into Avengers Doomsday. This isn't just a thematic connection, it's a direct plot handoff that makes this movie the most important piece of the puzzle since Endgame. So how does it all connect? It reportedly begins with where the Fantastic Four are from. The film is confirmed to be set in a vibrant, retro-futuristic, 1960s-inspired alternate universe. This isn't the Earth 616 we know. In this reality, the team, Reed Richards, played by Pedro Pascal; Sue Storm, the Invisible Woman, played by Vanessa Kirby; Johnny Storm, the Human Torch, played by Joseph Quinn; and Ben Grimm, the Thing, played by Eben Moss Backrack, are the only superheroes. They are celebrities, explorers, and a family. Their world is shattered by the confirmed arrival of the cosmic world eater Galactus, played by Ralph Ineson. He sends his herald ahead to deliver the warning, and in this version, the Silver Surfer will be a woman named Shallabal, played by Julia Garner. Now this is where we get into some very popular and highly detailed online leaks, so take this next part with a grain of salt. According to these unconfirmed rumors, the film's plot revolves around the team's desperate fight to save their planet from being eaten. But here's where the story could take a deeply personal turn. These leaks claim that Sue Storm is pregnant, and the child she carries is Franklin Richards. In the comics, Franklin is one of the most powerful beings in the Marvel Universe, an Omega-level mutant who can literally warp reality and create entire universes. According to these rumors, Galactus senses this incredible power. He doesn't just want their planet, he wants the child, believing Franklin could finally end his eternal hunger. The family, of course, refuses. The battle that follows is said to be catastrophic. The leaks go on to describe a desperate plan to teleport Galactus away, leading to a moment where Sue unleashes her full power and seemingly sacrifices herself to save everyone. Their world is saved, but their family is broken. But then, the rumored miracle. Baby Franklin, seeing his mother gone, crawls to her, and with a burst of his latent power, brings her back to life. This single rumored act is the key to everything. It would confirm a being exists with the power to rewrite reality, and an event that big wouldn't go unnoticed. The fight with Galactus and the surge of energy from Franklin would send a shockwave across the multiverse. Their universe is saved, but now everyone, everywhere, knows they exist. They've essentially become multiversal refugees. This brings us to their arrival in the main MCU timeline. Their arrival immediately puts them on a collision course with Doctor Doom. A popular rumor about the film's post-credits scene is the moment that could set up Avengers Doomsday. The scene, as described by leakers, is simple and terrifying. Sue Storm is with her baby, Franklin. She leaves the room for a moment, and when she returns, a cloaked figure is standing there, holding an unconscious Franklin in one arm and his iconic iron mask in the other. If this rumor is true, this is the linchpin. Doom wouldn't just have the ultimate power source he needs to become a god, he'd have kidnapped the son of his greatest enemy. The fight is no longer about saving the universe. It's about a family trying to save their child. This is why the Fantastic Four could be the reset Marvel needs. It would recenter the MCU on a clear, compelling, and emotional story. Reed Richards' mind might be the only one that can figure out the science of the incursions, while Franklin's power might be the only force that can stop Doom or maybe even reset the universe itself. It's an epic, high-stakes story with a clear goal and a terrifying villain, all built around the plight of Marvel's first family. The arrival of the Fantastic Four isn't just about new characters. It's about restoring the pillars of Marvel, family, hope, and facing impossible odds together. Their story provides the personal, emotional anchor for the cosmic chaos. The rivalry between Reed Richards and Victor Von Doom is the intellectual heart of the conflict. And the fight for Franklin Richards is its soul. Marvel isn't just giving us a new movie, they might be giving us a new North Star. So is Marvel really back? It feels like we're on the verge of a major comeback. The Fantastic Four is being positioned as a grand new beginning, the catalyst that could finally funnel all the loose threads of the multiverse saga into one epic story, culminating in a battle against the godlike Doom in Avengers Secret Wars. The aimlessness that's been weighing the franchise down seems to be giving way to a clear, exciting new direction. We are finally on the road to Secret Wars, and it looks like the Fantastic Four are holding the map. They're the family who will lead the charge, the intellect that will find the way, and the heart that will remind us what it means to be a hero when the entire universe is about to collapse. The promise isn't broken anymore. It's being reforged. But I want to know what you think. What do you think happens when Reed Richards finally comes face to face with the man who stole his son? What will that ultimate showdown between Marvel's two greatest minds really look like? For decades, the story's been simple. Two brilliant minds, one tragic accident. But if you look closely, the history of Marvel Comics is full of clues, subtle hints, moments of ambiguity that point to a very different story. A story where Reed's famous intellect becomes a weapon, where his heroism casts a shadow so dark it forges a monster. Today, we're pulling on those threads. We're going to connect the dots and explore the theory that Reed Richards, through both his literal actions and his entire way of life, is the single most important person in the creation of Dr. Doom. This isn't just another hero versus villain story. This is the story of a creator and his unintended yet undeniable creation. So, to really get this theory, we first have to break down the story Marvel has been telling us since the 60s. The whole thing started not on some crazy battlefield, but in the halls of State University. This is where two of the smartest people on the planet first met. On one side, you've got Reed Richards, a natural genius, sure, but also a guy coming from a world of privilege. He's calm, methodical, and already acting like a detached, superior scientist. For him, being brilliant is just a normal part of life. Then you've got Victor Von Doom, and his story couldn't be more different. Victor is a Romani man from Latveria, a poor fictional nation run by a tyrant. His mother, a sorceress, died in a deal with the demon Mephisto, and his father, a healer, died a fugitive after failing to save the tyrant's wife. Victor is an orphan, literally forged in tragedy and persecution. His genius isn't a gift. It's a weapon he's sharpened to claw his way out of that life and get his family's honor back. When he shows up at State University on a scholarship, he's not there to make friends. He's an outsider, armored by a fierce pride and an ego that protects him from a world that has only ever hurt him. The rivalry was instant. It wasn't just about who was smarter, it was a clash of how they saw the world. Reed thought science was for the good of mankind, a puzzle to solve. Victor saw science as a tool for power, for proving himself, and for a very secret goal. This all leads to the incident, the moment that supposedly changes everything, first laid out in Fantastic Four Annual 2. Victor wasn't just working on some class project. He was building a machine to tear a hole in reality itself. He was blending science with the forbidden magic he learned from his mother, all for one reason: to contact the netherworld and rescue his mother's soul. It's a mission born from love and grief, but he pursues it with a dangerous obsession. And this is where Reed steps in. In the classic version of the story, Reed takes a look at Victor's calculations and spots a flaw. The comics are a little vague on what it was, sometimes a tiny decimal error, other times a major mistake. Whatever it was, Reed, being Reed, thinks he's doing the right thing. He tries to warn his rival. But you have to imagine how Victor took that warning. Here he is, a man whose entire identity is built on being the smartest guy in the room, about to do the impossible. And in walks Reed Richards, the golden boy, telling him he screwed up. Victor's reaction is exactly what you'd expect. He scoffs. He blows off Reed's warning as jealousy from a lesser mind and tells him to get out. He goes ahead with the experiment, unchanged. The result? Catastrophe. The machine blows up, scarring Victor's face and getting him expelled for conducting forbidden experiments. His academic career is toast, his face a permanent reminder of his failure. In that moment of pain and humiliation, all his anger and shame focus on one person, Reed Richards. From there, Victor's path is set. He wanders the world, ends up in a Tibetan monastery, and masters both science and sorcery. He has the monks forge him a suit of armor and, most importantly, a cold iron mask to hide his scars. He is no longer Victor Von Doom. He is Dr. Doom, and his first vow is to get revenge on the man he blames for everything. That's the official story. A tragedy, yeah, but one where the roles are simple. Victor is the villain who fell because of his own pride. Reed is the hero whose good advice was ignored. It's a clean narrative that puts all the blame on Victor. But what if it's not that clean? What if that's just the story Reed Richards, the man who won, wants us to believe? So let's start poking holes in that story. Let's look at it not as a simple comic book plot, but through the lens of character and psychology. Because when you really look at the man who calls himself Mr. Fantastic, the official story starts to look shaky. First, let's think about Reed's warning. Reed Richards isn't just smart. He's known for being intellectually arrogant. He can be condescending, emotionally distant, and so sure he's right that he doesn't think about how other people feel. This isn't just a fan theory, it's written into his character over and over again. Now imagine that guy trying to warn Victor Von Doom. Was it a friendly tip between colleagues? Or is it way more likely it came off as a smug, I, Reed Richards, found a mistake in your little project? For someone like Victor, with a massive and fragile ego, that's not a warning. It's an insult. It's a challenge. It's the kind of thing almost guaranteed to make him do the opposite. Reed, a genius who supposedly understands people, had to know that. So was he really trying to help? Or was he just trying to put his rival in his place? This leads to a darker interpretation, one that's been hinted at in the comics for years. What if it wasn't just a badly delivered warning? What if Reed Richards sabotaged the experiment? This is a fan theory, and to be clear, there's no smoking gun in the main comics that confirms it. But the idea has a few versions. One is that Reed, seeing Victor messing with dangerous magic, decided to fix the calculations himself. Maybe he thought he was making it safer, but in his arrogance, he actually caused the explosion. He meddled with something he didn't understand, a mix of science and sorcery, and it blew up in Victor's face. Another even darker possibility is that he did it on purpose. That he saw Victor as a rival who might one day surpass him and ensured his failure. While outright sabotage has never been proven, the comics have played with the ambiguity of that moment. Jack Kirby, Doom's co-creator, even suggested the explosion only left a tiny scar. It was Victor's vanity that blew it out of proportion. Then, in a brilliant twist added by writer John Byrne, it was revealed that Victor's face was truly ruined not by the blast, but because he was in such a rush to hide that one small scar that he put on his newly forged iron mask while it was still red hot, searing it to his skin. But even that interpretation doesn't let Reed off the hook. Whether the scar was big or small, it was the humiliation of the failure. A failure Reed publicly predicted that drove Victor to that moment of self-mutilation. Reed's "I told you so" became the poison that led Victor to permanently disfigure himself. The miniseries Books of Doom, which tells the origin from Victor's point of view, shows a man whose one noble quest to save his mother was ruined by his rival's meddling. While that's Victor's side of the story, and he's hardly a reliable narrator, it gets to the heart of the issue. From Victor's perspective, Reed's interference is the sole reason for his damnation. And given Reed's character, his pride, his occasional callousness, it's hard to see him as a purely innocent bystander. At best, he was reckless in how he handled it. At worst, he was a willing saboteur. Whether Reed's intervention was arrogant, negligent, or malicious, the result is the same. The explosion in that lab did more than just scar a man's face. In that one moment, you could argue that Reed Richards became the catalyst for the birth of Dr. Doom. Think about the psychological impact. Victor, for all his flaws, was driven by a powerful, even noble goal: to save his mother. He failed. And he failed publicly in front of the one person whose respect he secretly craved, his intellectual equal, Reed Richards. This was more than a failed experiment. It was a total invalidation of his genius, his purpose, and his identity. And Reed was standing right there, the living symbol of his failure. The world didn't see a grieving son. It saw an arrogant student who didn't listen to the smarter man. Reed was proven right, and in doing so, he damned Victor to be eternally wrong. This is the fire in which Dr. Doom was forged. The physical scars were a constant reminder of that humiliation. His expulsion was the official stamp of his disgrace. Every choice Victor made afterward was a reaction to that failure. His journey, his training, his obsession with power. It was all driven by a burning need to prove that he, not Reed, was the superior man. The mask is the ultimate symbol of this. He doesn't just wear a disguise. He welds a new identity to his skin. He entombs the shamed face of Victor Von Doom under a shell of cold, perfect iron. He erases the man who failed and becomes Dr. Doom, a title that mocks the academic world that threw him out and elevates him above Mr. Fantastic. Without Reed at that specific moment, what would Victor have become? He'd still be brilliant and ruthless. He might have still become the ruler of Latveria. But would he have become Dr. Doom, the armored supervillain whose entire life is a war against one man? It seems unlikely. Reed's actions gave all of Victor's free-floating rage a target. It gave his pain a name and a face. He didn't just light the fuse, he built the bomb. If you're digging this deep dive into the darker side of Reed Richards, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. We're about to go from the literal creation to the metaphorical, exploring how Reed's very existence shaped his enemy's entire worldview. You won't want to miss how deep this rabbit hole goes. The lab accident may have been Dr. Doom's birth, but Reed Richards' role as his creator goes way beyond that. If the explosion was the literal creation, then Reed's entire life, his success, his family, his fame, became the metaphorical blueprint for Doom's villainy. At its heart, their rivalry isn't about world domination, it's about validation. Doom's plans are almost never just about power. They're elaborate shows designed to prove he's better than Reed. He doesn't just want to rule the world, he wants Reed to watch him rule it. Reed Richards has everything Victor Von Doom believes was stolen from him. Reed is celebrated as a hero. Reed has a loving family, a wife, loyal friends, and children to carry on his legacy. Every one of these things is like a knife in Doom's heart. He too is a genius, but he's seen as a tyrant. He too could save the world, but he's seen as a villain. He once had a love, Valeria, but sacrificed her for more power in his quest to beat Reed, a choice that stands in stark contrast to Reed's family values. Reed is a walking, talking reminder of the life of respect and happiness Victor was denied. So, Doom's life becomes a dark mirror of Reed's. He has to match Reed's achievements, but in a way that humiliates him. That's why his plans are so personal. He has a twisted obsession with Sue Storm, not out of love, but because she's precious to Reed. He has cured Ben Grimm of being the Thing, not out of kindness, but to show he could do what Reed failed to do for years. Nowhere is this clearer than in the 2015 storyline, Secret Wars. This is the ultimate proof of the theory. When the multiverse is destroyed, Dr. Doom seizes the power of the godlike Beyonders, something Reed couldn't do, and saves the last scraps of reality, creating a new planet called Battleworld. And on this world, he is God Emperor Doom. He has won. He is worshipped, he has made Sue his queen, and Franklin and Valeria his children. Reed Richards is gone, believed dead. But he can't let it go. His victory feels empty without his rival there to see it. And when Reed finally reappears, the God Emperor crumbles. Their final battle isn't with fists, it's with words. Reed tells him that with all that power, he could have done something perfect, but instead, he just built a broken world to soothe his own ego. And then comes the most important moment in their long history. Doom screams at Reed, asking the question that has haunted him his entire life. Do you truly believe you could have done better? Reed just answers, yes. And in that moment, Doom's will breaks. He pauses and admits the one thing he has spent his life denying. Yes. Damn you. I do. With that one whispered admission, Doom concedes that Reed is the better man. The godlike power leaves him and flows to Reed because the power was always tied to Doom's belief that he was superior. Reed then rebuilds the multiverse and, in an incredible act of grace, even heals the scars on Victor's face. Secret Wars shows that even with the power of a god, Doom's entire world was built around his rivalry with Reed. Reed is his psychological anchor, his moral compass in reverse. So, we've laid out the case. Reed Richards is the architect of Dr. Doom. But that leaves one last, huge question. Does Reed know? Deep down, does he recognize the part he played in creating his own worst enemy? The evidence suggests that not only does he know, he's haunted by it. Reed would never admit this out loud. His pride is just as big as Doom's in its own way, but his actions betray a deep sense of guilt. Think about how he almost always calls him Victor, not Doom. Victor. It's a small thing, but it's a constant acknowledgement of the brilliant, troubled man he once knew. After Secret Wars, this becomes even clearer. When Reed has the power to reshape reality, he lets the world believe he and his family are dead for a while. Why? As he later reveals, it was for Victor's sake. He thought that with him gone, Victor might finally have a chance to be a hero. That is an extraordinary act. It's the ultimate admission of his influence over Doom, a tacit acknowledgement that his very presence fuels the villainy. It's basically an act of penance. And then there's the most telling piece of evidence. Valeria Richards, Reed's daughter. During a complicated pregnancy, the only person who could save Sue and the baby was Dr. Doom. He agreed to help, but for a price, the right to name the child. He names her Valeria, after his own lost love. By doing this, he becomes her godfather, and they develop a bizarrely genuine, affectionate relationship. Valeria is one of the only people Doom seems to truly care for, and Reed allows this. He lets his daughter have a bond with his worst enemy. Why? Maybe because he understands this connection is a bridge between them, a reminder of the man Victor could have been. Reed's tolerance of this relationship feels like a silent, ongoing atonement for his original sin. He knows he broke Victor Von Doom, and by letting Victor love his daughter, he might be trying, in some small way, to let him heal. So let's put it all together. The simple story that Victor Von Doom is just a product of his own pride feels incomplete. When you dig deeper, a more disturbing picture emerges. We've seen how Reed's actions at the university, whether they were arrogant, negligent, or something worse, were the literal spark for the accident that put Victor on his dark path. This was the moment of literal creation. We've explored how Reed's life of fame, family, and heroism became the impossible standard that fueled Doom's lifelong obsession, making him the metaphorical creator of his enemy's entire worldview. And finally, we've seen through Reed's own quiet guilt, his attempts at redemption, and the strange bond with Valeria, what looks like an unspoken confession of his own part in it all. Reed Richards isn't just Dr. Doom's nemesis, he is his creator. The greatest hero of the Fantastic Four is fundamentally responsible for their greatest villain. Their endless fight isn't just good versus evil. It's a tragic dance between a man and his shadow, a creator and his creation, where neither one can ever truly escape the moment their lives collided and gave birth to a monster. Why would the Fantastic Four, maybe the most important hero introduction of the entire multiverse saga, make their grand entrance in a Thunderbolts movie? The Thunderbolts are not the welcome wagon. They're a team of government operatives, reformed villains, and morally gray anti-heroes assembled by the shady Contessa Valentina. Let's look at the roster. We've got Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier, still dealing with decades of being a brainwashed assassin. We have Yelena Belova, a Black Widow who's just as deadly as her sister but way more cynical. There's John Walker, a guy who cracked under the pressure of being Captain America. Add in Ghost and Taskmaster. This isn't the group you send to greet new allies with open arms. This is the team you send to investigate a potential threat falling from the sky. The theory argued that the scene would be framed from their perspective for a reason. Rumors suggested the team was being kept in the dark about a major space crisis. When an unknown ship appears, they're the ones on call. They aren't there to welcome the Fantastic Four, they're there to intercept a bogey. This framing is the first clue that what we were being led to expect wasn't the real story. The arrival of Reed Richards and his family should be a global event, met by Captain America or what's left of the Avengers. It would be a moment of hope and wonder. Placing this huge moment at the feet of the Thunderbolts suggests the arrival is confrontational by nature. It's not a meeting, it's a standoff. This mismatch between the greeters and the supposed guests is the foundation of the theory. It creates a tension that just undermines the hopeful idea of the F4 arriving. It invites us to ask, what if the threat isn't coming for Earth, but is on that ship? What if Marvel was using our desire to finally see the Fantastic Four against us? It's a classic misdirection. They show us a symbol we recognize, the Four, and our minds fill in the rest. But the story we tell ourselves might be designed to make the real reveal that much more shocking. And that reveal has nothing to do with Reed Richards at all. So, if the ship isn't carrying the Fantastic Four, who is? This is where the theory gets dark. The speculation was that the ship was stolen by the F4's greatest nemesis, Victor Von Doom. This isn't just random, it's a move of pure strategic genius. In this scenario, Doom hasn't just beaten his universe's greatest heroes, he's taken their last hope of escape for himself. He arrives in our universe not as a refugee, but as a conqueror, wearing the symbol of his defeated enemies. The comic books are full of moves just like this. Dr. Doom is not a simple thug. His intellect rivals Reed Richards. He's a master of both science and sorcery, which makes him completely unpredictable. Stealing the Fantastic Four's ship is exactly his brand of arrogant psychological warfare. It's a declaration of victory before the fight even starts. He isn't just arriving, he's planting his flag. But the theory went even deeper. It suggested Doom wasn't alone. The most potent version of this idea claimed he had a hostage, Franklin Richards. For those who don't know the comics, Franklin is Reed and Sue's son, and he's one of the most powerful reality warpers in the entire Marvel universe. He can literally create and destroy universes. In the famous Secret Wars comic storyline from 2015, it was Franklin's power, used by Dr. Doom, that allowed Doom to stitch together the remnants of a dying multiverse into his own planet, Battleworld, with himself as God Emperor. If this theory held any water, the ship's arrival wouldn't just be about introducing a villain. It would be about introducing the endgame of the multiverse saga in one terrifying scene. Doom arrives with the literal key to reshaping all of existence. He has the ultimate weapon, and Earth 616 is his new target. He's escaped his own collapsing reality, maybe one he helped destroy, and now sees our timeline as a new world to save through absolute control. This is what would have made the misdirection so clever. We see a ship with a 4 and think heroes, but that number could just as easily represent the 4 people Doom defeated to get here. The name of the ship itself, rumored in some circles to be the Excelsior, would become a symbol of his own triumph. This theory suggested we should doubt what we see, and that doubt leads directly to the terrifying possibility that the pilot is the one man who could bring a new dark age to the MCU. This is the heart of the theory, the part that elevates it from a cool plot twist to something truly horrifying. The idea is that when the ramp of that stolen ship lowers, the man who emerges cloaked in armor and radiating authority looks exactly like Tony Stark. Just let that sink in. The heroes on the ground: Bucky, who fought beside Tony, Yelena, who knows his legacy, and all of us watching would see the face of the man who sacrificed himself to save the universe. But his eyes wouldn't be warm. They would burn with the desire to conquer. This wouldn't just be Dr. Doom. This would be Dr. Doom wearing the face of a god, a face that commands instant trust from the people of Earth 616. It's the ultimate psychological weapon. Why would this happen? Thematically, Dr. Doom has always been the dark reflection of Tony Stark. Both are geniuses, futurists, and massive egomaniacs who believe only they can save the world. They are two sides of the same coin. Tony, for all his faults, learned humility and sacrifice. Dr. Doom believes free will is a disease that leads to chaos. He would save the world by locking it in a cage, ruling with an iron fist because he genuinely believes it's for the best. Presenting Doom with Tony's face makes this parallel literal. It creates a villain who is a sick perversion of the MCU's greatest legacy. Every sacrifice Tony made would be twisted by this doppelganger. And how could this happen? The multiverse saga gives us the perfect out-variance. This Victor Von Doom could be from a universe where he was their Iron Man, but he never had that humbling experience in a cave, and his genius grew without a conscience. Some versions of the theory even suggested it's just a cosmic coincidence, a Victor Von Doom from another universe who just happens to look identical to our Tony. He could then use that face to present himself as an ally, earning trust before showing his true colors. Imagine him approaching the Thunderbolts, a team of outcasts, and telling them he understands what it's like to be an underdog. It's a masterful manipulation. While there's no official word that Robert Downey Jr. is returning, the sheer amount of fan discussion shows how powerful the idea is. Whether a true variant or a look-alike, the effect would be devastating. Picture Bucky Barnes freezing as he sees the face of a man he fought and died with. Picture the world seeing the return of their greatest champion. And then he speaks not of hope, but of order. Not of freedom, but of control. The horrifying realization would dawn that this is not a miracle. It's an invasion. This kind of reveal wouldn't just be for shock value. According to the theory, it would be the single event that kicks off the rest of the multiverse saga, leading into Avengers, Doomsday, and Secret Wars. First, it would give the saga a face. A common complaint about the current MCU is a lack of direction after Thanos. This twist would answer the "who's the new big bad" question in the most dramatic way possible. The new villain isn't just some alien, he's a dark mirror of the saga's most iconic hero. Second, it makes the multiversal threat real and immediate. He's living proof that the walls between realities are collapsing. He's a survivor of an incursion from a dying universe who isn't looking to peacefully coexist. He would see our reality, Earth 616, as the one that deserves to survive, even if it means destroying other universes to ensure it. Third, and this is the best part, it would establish the epic rivalry between Reed Richards and Dr. Doom before Reed even shows up. Imagine the actual Fantastic Four finally arriving on Earth 616, only to find their nemesis has beaten them there and is already building a power base by wearing the face of a beloved hero. The conflict is instantly personal, intellectual, and ideological. It's the comic-accurate rivalry fans have been waiting for, set up with a brilliant twist. This single event would reframe everything. The Thunderbolts wouldn't just be anti-heroes, they'd be the potential first followers of a multiversal tyrant. Avengers. Doomsday wouldn't just be a cool title. It would be a direct reference to the day this Dr. Doom arrives. And with Franklin Richards as his captive, he'd have the power to make it all happen, eventually collapsing all of reality into his own battle world. The post-credit scene, therefore, wouldn't have been an ending. It would have been the beginning of the end. So let's step back and look at the picture this wild theory painted. A ship with a 4 on the side descends from the sky. A team of hardened soldiers prepares for the unknown, and from that ship walks the ghost of Tony Stark, twisted into a mask of pure conquest. This wouldn't be the arrival of heroes, it would be the coronation of the MCU's ultimate villain. This theory imagined the single greatest act of misdirection Marvel could ever attempt. It would have used over a decade of our emotional investment in Tony Stark and turned it into a weapon against us. It would have established the villain, the conflict, and the stakes for the entire multiverse saga in one move. It's audacious, it's horrifying, and it would have been absolutely brilliant. While the Thunderbolts movie came and went without this scene, it's fun to think about. It shows what we, as fans, are hoping for. Big swings and unforgettable villains. To really get your head around this theory, we have to start with the evidence. The supposed smoking gun. That chalkboard. At a glance, it's just the chaotic scribbles of a genius, complex, intimidating, and pretty much unreadable to most of us. But we know Marvel doesn't do things by accident. Every single equation, every diagram could be a breadcrumb. And if you follow that trail, it might lead to a horrifying conclusion. Let's try to break it down. The biggest thing on the board is a large diagram right in the center. It shows 2 points labeled entrance and exit, linked by a swirling vortex. Right under the exit, the words, "Another universe?" are clearly written and underlined. This isn't just a simple sketch of a wormhole. It looks like a visual of an Einstein-Rosen bridge, the real-world theory that underpins all this multiversal travel stuff. This suggests Reed isn't just looking at the stars, he's trying to draw a map between realities. He's not just a physicist, he's a multiversal cartographer. That question mark is everything. It implies he's not just watching, he's testing a hypothesis. He's pushing at the dimensional walls, trying to punch a hole through to whatever is on the other side. Around this main drawing are clusters of equations that give his work some terrifying context. We can see notes that seem to be about gravitational singularities, space-time curvature, and quantum entanglement. These aren't just sci-fi buzzwords. They're the pillars of multiversal physics as the MCU has slowly defined them. Gravitational singularities create black holes and, theoretically, wormholes. Space-time curvature is how massive objects warp reality. And then there's quantum entanglement, the idea that particles can be linked across any distance. In a multiversal context, that concept is genuinely scary. If you can entangle particles across different realities, you're basically creating a cosmic tripwire. What you do in one universe could instantly affect another. It feels like in his obsessive quest for knowledge, Reed isn't just knocking on another universe's door, he's wiring it with explosives. One specific set of equations seems to be about brain cosmology, or M-theory. This is a real, high-level theory in physics, suggesting our universe is just one brain floating in a higher dimension next to countless others. Traveling between them would take an unimaginable amount of energy, enough to literally stretch space-time. Now, this is where a very persistent and powerful rumor comes into play. There's a supposed line of dialogue from the film where Reed tells Sue, "It's my fault. I stretched the bounds of space." And they heard. As of right now, that line is completely unconfirmed. But if it turns out to be real, it changes everything on that chalkboard. The board is no longer a plan, it's a confession. It's not a map of what could be done. It's a log of what he already did. He ran the experiment. He stretched reality, sending out ripples, a signal that shot across the multiverse. He might have been trying to solve some grand problem, but in his attempt to be the savior, he might have accidentally become a siren. His signal a dinner bell for something ancient and hungry. Every equation on that board would no longer be a step toward discovery, but a step toward disaster. It's the conspiracy in plain sight. Reed Richards didn't just find the threat, he might have created the conditions for it to find them. He rang the bell. And on the other side of the void, this theory says Galactus heard it. Reed's work on that chalkboard would be dangerous no matter what, but when you place it inside the established rules of the MCU's multiverse saga, it starts to look downright apocalyptic. To really feel the weight of the chalkboard conspiracy, we have to remember the catastrophic precedents that have already been set. The MCU has spent years showing us very clearly that messing with the multiverse has consequences. It started with Loki. That show was basically our textbook for multiversal mechanics. We learned about the sacred timeline and the chaos that happens when it branches. When He Who Remains died, it didn't just create a few new timelines, it unleashed a chaotic flood. He warned of a multiversal war, which gives us our first rule. The multiverse is unstable and prone to conflict. Reed isn't just opening a door. The theory suggests he's opening a door in the middle of a war zone. Then we got Spider-Man, No Way Home. Doctor Strange's messed up spell showed us what happens when the walls between universes get thin. It didn't just pull in random people, it specifically pulled in people who knew Peter Parker. This gives us a second critical rule. Connections matter. A strong enough cosmic signal can create a pathway that draws specific individuals across realities. Reed's experiments, according to this theory, aren't just random noise. They're a focused signal of a brilliant mind pushing the absolute limits of physics, a signal that would be like a siren's call to a cosmic being whose whole existence is tied to the fundamental forces of the universe. And that brings us to the scariest rule of them all, from Doctor Strange in the multiverse of madness, incursions. An incursion is when two universes collide, wiping out one or both of them. We saw what happened to Earth 838 because of its Strange's meddling. His world was just gone, the cause, leaving a large footprint in another universe. This is the multiversal death penalty. So, let's apply these rules to the Chalkboard conspiracy. Reed Richards, from his 1960s-style world, is trying to build a bridge to another universe. By its very definition, his work is designed to create a large footprint. The theory says his actions don't just send a signal, they create a wound in reality, a beacon. This beacon could have two horrifying effects. First, following the no way home rule, it attracts beings tuned to that frequency. And who would be more tuned into a signal of immense reality-bending energy than Galactus, the devourer of worlds? The theory suggests Reed's experiment created a new, exotic form of energy, drawing Galactus to his Earth like a shark to blood. Second, and this is a part of the theory that's even more chilling, is the idea that Galactus could be a multiversal constant. Unlike Loki or Spider-Man, who have tons of variants, some fans believe there's only one Galactus who exists across all realities at once. While this is pure speculation, if it's true, Reed's experiment didn't just attract a Galactus, it attracted the Galactus. Suddenly, the stakes are raised from a planetary threat to a multiversal one. This is the deadly game Reed is playing, according to the theory. He's a man from one timeline messing with forces that govern the entire cosmic structure, breaking rules we've already seen lead to total annihilation. His scientific curiosity might have made his Earth ground zero for a cosmic event, and the Chalkboard could be his signed confession. He didn't know the rules of the game, and in trying to win, he may have doomed everyone. Which brings us to the first consequence of his alleged actions, the Silver Surfer. The Silver Surfer is the first sign that Galactus is coming, a silver sentinel of the spaceways, heralding the end of worlds. For decades, we've known the herald as Norrin Radd, the noble man from Zen-La who sacrificed himself to save his planet and his love, Shalabal. But it looks like the MCU is charting a different and maybe even more tragic path. It has been confirmed that the Silver Surfer we're meeting is not Norrin Radd. The brilliant Julia Garner is playing the part, and her character's name is Shalabal. This is a huge twist. In the comics, Shalabal was the one Norrin left behind, his reason for making the sacrifice. By making her the Surfer, the MCU is flipping the classic story on its head. Now, there is a precedent for this in an alternate reality comic called Earth X, but this seems to be a major change for her live-action debut. So, the big question is, how does this Shalabal become the Herald? The Chalkboard conspiracy offers a chillingly direct answer. The theory suggests her transformation isn't because of a deal made on some distant world, but a direct result of Reed Richards' experiments on Earth. Unconfirmed leaks and popular theories propose that Shalabal, maybe an astronaut or scientist from her own world, stumbles upon a rift in space, a prototype of the very bridge we see on Reed's Chalkboard. But the theory says this gateway doesn't lead to another safe universe. It leads right into the path of Galactus, who was drawn there by the same energy Reed created. In that moment, Shalabal is trapped. To survive, or maybe to spare her own reality, she makes the deal. Galactus gives her the power cosmic, and she becomes his new herald, the Silver Surfer. If this theory is true, The implications are just staggering. Reed Richards, trying to explore the multiverse, wouldn't have just summoned the monster, he would have created the monster's herald. Shallabal becomes a tragic figure made not by her world, but by Reed's. Every world she marks for destruction would be a direct result of Reed's tinkering. Her very existence becomes a shimmering, silver reminder of his failure. This would add a heavy layer of personal responsibility for Reed. He wouldn't just be fighting some cosmic threat, he'd be fighting the living embodiment of his biggest mistake. Julia Garner herself has described the character as having a mysterious energy, saying you're not sure if she stands with her boss or is just doing what she's told. That conflict becomes so much more powerful if her transformation is tied to the film's hero. Is she a villain? Or is she a victim, forced into this role by a chain of events Reed himself started? It all comes back to Reed trying to cross the stars and instead bringing down the devourer of them, forging the very weapon that will be pointed at his own home. According to this theory, the Silver Surfer is no longer just a herald, she is a judgment. So let's connect the dots of this theory. We have the alleged weapon, motive, and suspect. The weapon is the chalkboard, a blueprint for messing with the multiverse. The motive is Reed's insatiable, almost obsessive need to know and to push boundaries. And the suspect is, of course, Reed himself. The chalkboard conspiracy paints a picture of a tragic hero, the architect of his own doom. It's not just about what Reed might have done. It's about why he might have done it. Let's quickly recap the theory's evidence. 1. The chalkboard shows Reed is actively trying to engineer travel to another universe. 2. The MCU's own rules say that these actions have catastrophic consequences. 3. We know for a fact that Shallabal is the new Silver Surfer, a major change from the comics. The theory is the glue that holds all these pieces together. Her transformation is the direct result of Reed's experiment. This creates a perfect, horrifying chain reaction. Reed's experiment is the cause. The stretching of space-time is the event. The arrival of Galactus is the primary effect. And the creation of Shallabal as the Silver Surfer is the deeply personal consequence. Reed would be doubly responsible. He didn't just light the fire. He handed the arsonist the gasoline. This is where that rumored line, "It's my fault. I stretched the bounds of space," and they heard would be the linchpin of the entire theory. Again, it's just a rumor, but if it's in the film, it's the moment of confession. It would confirm he's not a passive victim of an invasion, but the active catalyst. His journey would become one of desperate atonement. He broke the universe, and now he's the only one smart enough to even have a chance of fixing it. Think of what that does to the Fantastic Four's dynamic as a family. How does Sue Storm react knowing Reed's ambition put their entire world in danger? How does Ben Grimm, the Thing, a man already trapped in a rocky body because of Reed's last big experiment, feel? It would be the ultimate tragic I told you so. Johnny Storm's flame on attitude would be shattered by a threat his brother-in-law invited to dinner. The movie's core conflict wouldn't be the Fantastic Four versus Galactus. It would be the Fantastic Four grappling with the consequences of Reed Richards. This recasts Reed not as an infallible genius, but as a modern Prometheus. Prometheus stole fire from the gods for humanity and was punished for eternity for his pride. Reed, in his own way, tried to steal the fire of creation, the secrets of the multiverse, and his punishment, this theory suggests, is Galactus and the Silver Surfer. His genius is his fatal flaw. This whole narrative isn't just compelling, it also solves a problem for the MCU. How do you make Reed Richards stand out in a universe that already had Tony Stark and Bruce Banner? The answer isn't just to make him smarter. It's to make his intelligence more dangerous, more tragic. He's the man who can see all the angles but is blinded by his own ambition. The Chalkboard conspiracy isn't just about plot points, it's a theory about character, and it paints a portrait of Reed Richards that is as brilliant as it is heartbreaking. So, what if this conspiracy theory is true? What are the real stakes here? If Reed Richards is personally responsible for summoning Galactus, the implications ripple out far beyond one movie. This theory wouldn't just set up Fantastic Four first steps. It could lay the groundwork for the entire climax of the multiverse saga. First, the immediate fallout. If Reed's actions damage the walls of his reality, his universe is now a weak point. This could be the very thing that leads to an incursion with our main MCU timeline. The Fantastic Four's arrival in the MCU might not be a triumph, but a desperate escape. They could be refugees, fleeing a dying universe that they helped break. This would put them on a direct course for Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars. The whole conflict of Secret Wars in the comics is about the multiverse collapsing from incursions. Reed's actions in his first movie could be the inciting incident, the first domino that leads to everything falling apart. He wouldn't just be a player in Secret Wars, he'd be one of its primary authors. Then there's the idea of cosmic responsibility. If the fan theory about a singular multiversal Galactus is true, then the problem isn't contained to Reed's reality. It's now everyone's problem. This could be the perfect reason to introduce a council of Reeds. Our Reed, the one who supposedly caused the mess, would have to confront other versions of himself, some who might have made even bigger mistakes. It would be a multiversal reckoning for the character. And you can't forget the villains. This theory elevates Galactus to a true saga-level threat. But it also perfectly sets the stage for the MCU's other great mastermind, Dr. Doom. Imagine Doom watching all of this unfold. He would see Reed's colossal mistake as proof that only he, Doom, has the strength and discipline to wield that kind of power. The legendary rivalry between Reed and Doom becomes a huge philosophical debate about science, control, and morality, with the multiverse as their stage. So, here's the bottom line. If this theory holds any water, Fantastic Four First Steps becomes one of the most important origin stories the MCU has ever told. It's not just introducing a team, it's potentially introducing the original sin of the Secret Wars. It would be the story of how the smartest man alive made the biggest mistake in history and how the entire multiverse will have to pay for it. The future of the MCU wouldn't just involve the Fantastic Four, it would revolve around cleaning up Reed Richards' multiversal mess. So, is Reed Richards a hero or a villain? A savior? Or the man who doomed us all? The Chalkboard conspiracy suggests the scariest answer. He's both. The theory points to a man whose ambition got the better of him, whose experiments ripped a hole in reality, summoning a monster and creating its herald. It's a theory that turns the debut of Marvel's first family from a happy arrival into a devastating tragedy. It fits with the MCU's rules. It gives us a powerful and dramatic potential origin for Shalabal's Silver Surfer, and it perfectly sets the table for the apocalyptic events we know are coming. This isn't Earth 616, the MCU's main timeline, but a separate reality where these heroes face their biggest threat yet, Galactus, the planet-eating cosmic giant played by Ralph Ineson. The trailer shows Galactus looming over their world, and Reed, played by Pedro Pascal, says, "It's my fault. I stretched the boundaries of space, and they heard." That line's a massive clue. Reed's experiments might have accidentally summoned Galactus. So what's the deal with Galactus? In the comics, he's a force of nature, devouring planets to survive. Unlike the 2007 Fantastic Four Rise of the Silver Surfer, where he was a weird space cloud, this Galactus is comic accurate, a towering humanoid in epic armor. Director Matt Shakman has confirmed they built a real costume for Innocent, not just motion capture, to make him feel massive and real. Galactus's herald, the Silver Surfer, played by Julia Garner, as Shalabal, is also in the mix, scouting worlds for him to consume. The trailer hints their universe is doomed. Galactus' shadow engulfs New York City, and the Fantastic Four might not save the day. Here's where it gets juicy. A popular theory suggests Galactus destroys their entire universe. The Fantastic Four, Pedro Pascal's Reed, Vanessa Kirby's Sue, Joseph Quinn's Johnny, and Eben Moss Bachrach's Ben are confirmed to return in Avengers Doomsday. That means they survive, likely by escaping to Earth 616. But why would their world be targeted? Could Reed's space experiments have destabilized their reality, making it a cosmic buffet for Galactus? And where does Dr. Doom fit into this galactic disaster? Let's dive deeper into that next. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room, or rather, the masked villain in the room. Dr. Doom. Robert Downey Jr.'s casting as Victor Von Doom sent shockwaves through the fandom. But here's the kicker. Director Matt Shakman has said Doom isn't the main villain in First Steps. Instead, Galactus takes center stage. So, where does Doom come in? Some fans, including posts on X, speculate he'll appear in a post-credits scene, setting up his role in Avengers Doomsday. Others believe he's woven into the story earlier, maybe even as a friend to Reed Richards before turning villainous. Let's break it down. In the comics, Doom and Reed are rivals from their college days, both brilliant minds with clashing egos. First Steps is set in an alternate 1960s universe, and a wild theory suggests Doom hails from this same reality. What if his world, possibly even Latveria, his comic book nation, was already devoured by Galactus? Imagine this. Doom tries to save his people, maybe even fights Galactus alongside the Fantastic Four, only to fail spectacularly. His universe is gone, and he's left with nothing but rage and ambition. This could explain why he's so desperate to control the multiverse in Avengers Doomsday. Losing everything would push anyone to extremes, even someone as calculated as Doom. But here's a twist. What if Doom isn't just a victim? A theory from Screen Rant suggests he might initially seem heroic, battling Galactus to save his world. Picture Doom, Reed, and the Fantastic Four teaming up against this cosmic threat. Maybe Doom's genius rivals Reed's, and he's the one who comes up with a plan, only it backfires, or he betrays them. This could set up his villainous turn, showing him as a complex figure who believes he's saving reality, even if it means ruling it with an iron fist. Could Doom's heroic moment in First Steps be a misdirection, hiding his true plans for multiversal domination? Let's explore how this ties to the bigger MCU picture. Okay, let's zoom out and look at the multiverse saga. The Fantastic Four First Steps kicks off Phase 6, leading into Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars. The multiverse is the backbone of this saga, and a mind-blowing theory connects First Steps to Loki Season 2. In Loki, the TVA used to prune timelines to prevent chaos, but Loki's sacrifice at the end creates a new world tree, allowing all timelines to coexist. This change could explain why Galactus is only now targeting the Fantastic Four's universe. Before, the TVA might have called timelines where Reed's experiments drew cosmic attention. Now, with the TVA's hands-off approach, Reed's meddling with space could have sent a signal to Galactus like a cosmic dinner bell. This theory gets crazier. What if Reed's actions don't just doom his world, but threaten the entire multiverse? In the comics, Galactus wields the ultimate nullifier, a weapon that can destroy not just planets, but the multiverse itself. If First Steps introduces this, it could be a game changer. Imagine Doom getting his hands on the nullifier after Galactus falls, using it to reshape reality in Doomsday. A post on X by @MilkiaSamuel suggests Galactus wins, forcing the Fantastic Four to evacuate their world to Earth 616. This sets them up to join the Avengers against Doom, who's plotting something massive. But what's Doom's endgame? Another X post by @MyTimeToShine, H, claims Doom believes he's saving the multiverse by uniting all realities into Battleworld, a patchwork universe under his control. This aligns with the comics Secret Wars, where Doom rules Battleworld to prevent multiversal collapse. If his universe was destroyed by Galactus, it makes sense. Doom's seen what happens when a world falls, and he'll do anything to stop it, even if it means becoming a tyrant. Could first steps show the moment Doom decides one ruler is better than chaos? And how does Reed's mistake play into this? Let's dig into that next. Here's where things get wild. A bold theory from Screen Rant flips the script. What if Reed Richards, not Galactus or Doom, is the real threat in First Steps? In the trailer, Reed's line about stretching the boundaries of space suggests his experiments. Maybe multiversal travel or cosmic tech alerted Galactus. This echoes Doctor Strange in the multiverse of madness, where messing with the multiverse led to disaster. What if Reed's brilliance accidentally destabilizes his reality, making it a target for Galactus? The theory goes further. Galactus might not be a villain, but a force trying to save the multiverse by consuming unstable timelines. Think about it. If Reed's experiments cause an incursion, when two universes collide, destroying one or both, Galactus could be nature's cleanup crew, eating the damaged world to prevent a multiversal chain reaction. This would make the Fantastic Four, especially Reed, unwitting villains. Their fight to save their Earth could be dooming countless others. It's a gut punch twist. The heroes we root for might be the ones breaking reality. Now, where does Doom fit? If he's from the same universe, he might see Reed's mistake firsthand. Maybe he tries to warn Reed only to be ignored, fueling their rivalry. Or perhaps Doom's own tech amplifies the problem and he blames Reed to dodge guilt. Either way, losing his world to Galactus could push Doom to his breaking point, setting him on the path to Avengers Doomsday. The post-credits scene might show Doom arriving on Earth 616, vowing to prevent another catastrophe by any means necessary. Could Reed's hubris be the spark that ignites Doom's multiversal takeover? Let's connect this to Avengers Doomsday. The Fantastic Four First Steps isn't just a standalone flick, it's the foundation for the multiverse saga's climax. Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars are coming in 2026 and 2027, and Doom is the big bad. But how does First Steps set this up? Let's piece it together. If Galactus destroys the Fantastic Four's universe, they flee to Earth 616, likely via their ship as hinted in Thunderbolts' post-credits scene. This brings them into the main MCU, where they'll face Doom alongside the Avengers. A fan theory from Fandom Wire suggests Doom's role in First Steps is more than a cameo. He might appear early, maybe as Reed's ally, before Galactus wrecks everything. By the end, Doom could reappear, either blaming Reed or revealing his plan to control the multiverse. This sets up Doomsday, where Doom's mission to save reality by creating Battleworld takes center stage. In the comics, Battleworld is a planet stitched from multiversal fragments ruled by Doom to prevent incursions. An X-post by @Chiapet33 ties this to Loki's Void, suggesting Doom uses it as a blueprint for Battleworld. But here's a question, is Doom truly evil? His logic, uniting all realities under one ruler, might stem from watching Galactus devour his world. He's not Thanos, snapping half of life away. He's a control freak who thinks he's the only one who can prevent collapse. First Steps could show this origin, painting Doom as a tragic figure driven by loss. The Fantastic Four's survival might even inspire him. If they can escape, maybe he can rebuild reality his way. Could this film redefine Doom as a villain with a point, making us question who the real hero is? So why does this theory have us buzzing? Because it makes the Fantastic Four First Steps more than just a superhero flick, it's a pivotal chapter in the MCU's multiverse story. If Doom's universe falls to Galactus, it explains his desperation and sets up a morally gray villain for Doomsday and Secret Wars. Unlike Thanos, who was cold and calculated, Doom's driven by personal loss, making him relatable yet terrifying. And if Reed's experiments trigger this mess, it adds layers to his character, genius, hero, but also dangerously reckless. This also fixes past MCU mistakes. The multiverse saga has been criticized for feeling scattered, with films like Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania not fully exploring alternate realities. First Step's 1960s universe feels fresh and lived in, showing what the saga could have been. By tying Galactus to Loki and Doom to Secret Wars, it weaves a cohesive narrative. Plus, the emotional stakes. Losing a whole world hit harder than generic multiversal battles. What do you think? Is Doom a savior or a tyrant? Did Reed doom his universe, or is Galactus just hungry? This theory makes First Steps a must-watch, and we're counting down to July 25, 2025 to see how it plays out. Let's play devil's advocate. Maybe Doom isn't in First Steps at all. Shackman's comments suggest Galactus and the Silver Surfer are the focus, with no room for Doom's big air. The budget argument also holds RDJ's massive salary could strain the film's funds. Perhaps Doom's debut is saved for Doomsday, keeping First Steps a standalone story. But that feels unlikely. Marvel loves post-credits teases, and a Doom cameo would hype fans for what's next. Another possibility. Galactus isn't the destroyer, but a misunderstood force. If Reed's experiments threaten the multiverse, Galactus might be pruning unstable timelines like the TVA once did. This would flip the narrative, making the Fantastic Four the problem. But would Marvel make their first family villains so soon? Probably not. They need to establish them as heroes first. There's also the chance Doom's from a different universe, not the Fantastic Fours. If so, his motive might not tie to Galactus, but to another multiversal threat. Still, the Galactus-Doom connection feels too perfect, especially with Secret Wars looming. What's your take? Does this theory hold up? Or is Marvel planning something else? Wow, what a ride. The Fantastic Four First Steps could be the MCU's boldest move yet, setting up Doctor Doom as a tragic villain, Galactus as a cosmic game-changer, and Reed Richards as the genius who might have broken the multiverse. If Doom's universe falls to Galactus, it explains his obsession with control and ties perfectly to Avengers' Doomsday and Secret Wars. Whether Doom's a cameo or a key player, this film is shaping up to be a multiversal masterpiece. Unlike other MCU movies, this one's set in a 1960s-inspired, retro-futuristic universe where Reed Richards, Sue Storm, Johnny Storm, and Ben Grimm are the only heroes around. No Avengers, no X-Men, just them. This is a big deal because it means their world is separate from the main MCU timeline, also known as the Sacred Timeline or Earth 616. So, how do they end up in Avengers Doomsday, which hits theaters on December 18th, 2026, and brings together the Avengers, Wakandans, X-Men, Thunderbolts, and the Fantastic Four to face Doctor Doom? The key lies in their origin story. In the comics, the Fantastic Four get their powers from cosmic radiation during a space mission. First Steps seems to follow this, with the team facing off against Galactus, the planet-devouring cosmic entity, and his herald, the Silver Surfer. According to the official synopsis, they're defending their Earth from being eaten. But here's where things get spicy. The MCU's multiverse saga is all about universes colliding, and First Steps might not end with a clean victory. What if their battle with Galactus causes something bigger, like a multiversal ripple effect? In the comics, Galactus is tied to the balance of reality, and messing with him can have crazy consequences. Could their fight accidentally destabilize their universe, forcing them to cross into the main MCU timeline? This leads us to our first big question. Are the Fantastic Four about to lose their home? If their universe starts collapsing, maybe because of Galactus or even Doctor Doom's interference, they might not have a choice but to flee. That would make them refugees, not just heroes showing up to help. Imagine Reed, Sue, Johnny, and Ben realizing their world is doomed and stepping into a new reality where they're strangers. It's a heartbreaking setup, but it fits the multiverse saga's theme of fractured realities and displaced heroes. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room, Doctor Doom. At San Diego Comic-Con 2024, Marvel dropped a bombshell. Robert Downey Jr., the guy who played Iron Man, is coming back as Victor Von Doom. This is huge, and it's got fans buzzing with excitement and a bit of controversy. Why? Because Doom is the Fantastic Four's archenemy, and his presence in Avengers Doomsday suggests a deep connection to their story. But what's his deal? And how does it shape whether the Fantastic Four are heroes or refugees? In the comics, Victor Von Doom is a genius scientist, sorcerer, and the ruler of Latveria. He's got a lifelong rivalry with Reed Richards, blaming him for a lab accident that scarred his face and fueled his obsession with power. Doom's not just a villain. He's a complex guy who thinks he's the hero of his own story, often trying to save the world by controlling it. The MCU's version, played by Downey, seems to be a multiversal variant, possibly from the Fantastic Four's retro universe. This makes sense because First Steps is the perfect place to introduce him, even if it's just a cameo to tease his bigger role in Doomsday. Here's a wild theory. What if Doom's actions in First Steps cause the Fantastic Four's universe to collapse? Maybe he's working with or against Galactus, manipulating events to gain power. There's even a rumor floating around on X that Doom gets revenge on Reed by marrying Sue and weaponizing their son, Franklin Richards, who's a super powerful mutant in the comics. If true, this could mean Doom destroys their world to hurt Reed, forcing the Fantastic Four to flee to the sacred timeline. That would make them refugees with a personal vendetta against Doom, setting up a showdown in Doomsday. But here's the flip side. If Doom isn't in First Steps and only shows up in Doomsday, the Fantastic Four might arrive in the main timeline as heroes recruited to fight him because of their history. Reed's intellect, Sue's force fields, Johnny's flames, and Ben's strength make them a powerhouse team, perfect for taking on a threat as big as Doom. Either way, Doom's presence ties their fate to the bigger multiversal conflict, and it's going to be emotional. To figure out if the Fantastic Four are heroes or refugees, we need to zoom out and look at the multiverse saga. Phases 4 and 5 have been building up the idea of multiple universes, with movies like Spider-Man, No Way Home, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, and Deadpool and Wolverine showing how heroes and villains can cross realities. Avengers Doomsday and its sequel, Avengers Secret Wars, set for December 17, 2027, are the climax of this saga. And they're pulling from two major comic storylines, the 1984 Secret Wars and the 2015 Secret Wars by Jonathan Hickman. The 2015 Secret Wars is especially relevant. In that story, universes collide in events called incursions, destroying entire realities. Dr. Doom creates Battle World, a patchwork planet made from fragments of dead universes, and rules it like a god. Only a few heroes, like Reed Richards and Miles Morales, remember the old multiverse and fight to restore it. The MCU seems to be heading this way, with Doomsday showing the collapse of the multiverse and Secret Wars set on Battleworld. So, how does this tie to the Fantastic Four? One theory is that their fight with Galactus in First Steps triggers an incursion. In Multiverse of Madness, Doctor Strange warned that incursions happen when universes collide, threatening all reality. If the Fantastic Four's universe is destroyed, maybe because they defeat Galactus but destabilize their reality, they could end up as refugees in the sacred timeline, warning the Avengers about the coming multiversal collapse. This would give them a unique role. Not just heroes, but survivors with first-hand knowledge of what's at stake. On the other hand, if they're not fleeing a doomed universe, they could be pulled into the main timeline by someone like Doctor Strange or Loki, who's holding the multiverse together after the Loki series finale. As heroes, they join the Avengers to prevent an incursion, using their expertise to outsmart Doom. Either way, the multiverse's instability is the key to their involvement, and it's going to be a wild ride. Avengers. Doomsday is shaping up to be a massive crossover, with a confirmed cast that's absolutely stacked. We've got the Fantastic Four, Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards, Vanessa Kirby as Sue Storm, Joseph Quinn as Johnny Storm, and Eben Moss-Backrack as Ben Grimm. Then there's Anthony Mackie as Captain America, Chris Hemsworth as Thor, Sebastian Stan as Bucky Barnes, and Simu Liu as Shang-Chi. The Thunderbolts, including Florence Pugh's Yelena Belova and Wyatt Russell's U.S. agent, are in the mix, rebranded as the New Avengers. And get this, Fox's X-Men are back, with Patrick Stewart as Professor X, Ian McKellen as Magneto, Kelsey Grammer as Beast, and Channing Tatum as Gambit, among others. That's over 26 confirmed characters! This huge lineup raises a big question. How do all these heroes fit together, and where do the Fantastic Four stand? If they're refugees, they might be outsiders, struggling to earn the trust of the Avengers and X-Men. Imagine Ben Grimm, already dealing with his rocky appearance, feeling like he doesn't belong in this new world. Or Reed clashing with Sam Wilson's Captain America over leadership. The comics show the Fantastic Four often working with the Avengers, but their family dynamic sets them apart. As refugees, their focus might be protecting each other while helping save the multiverse. If they're heroes, though, they could be the glue that holds this chaotic team together. Reed's genius could rival Dr. Doom's, especially since they're old rivals. Sue's leadership as the team's heart could keep everyone grounded. Johnny and Ben could bring some much-needed humor and muscle to the fight. But with so many egos, Thor's arrogance, Bucky's grumpiness, Yelena's sarcasm, there's bound to be tension. The Russo brothers, who directed Infinity War and Endgame, are great at balancing big casts, so they'll likely give the Fantastic Four a standout role, whether they're heroes or refugees. Let's dig into the comics for more hints. In the 2015 Secret Wars, Reed Richards is central to stopping Dr. Doom, who's stolen the power of the Beyonders to create Battleworld. Only a few heroes, including Reed and Miles Morales, remember the original multiverse. They team up to take down Doom and rebuild reality. The MCU's Doomsday seems to be setting up a similar conflict, with Doom as the big bad and the Fantastic Four as key players. There's also a comic arc called Unthinkable, where Doom uses sorcery to destroy Reed's life, even targeting his family. If the MCU adapts this, it could explain the X-post about Doom marrying Sue and using Franklin Richards as a weapon. This would make the Fantastic Four's role deeply personal. They're not just fighting to save the multiverse, but to save their family. If their universe is gone, they're refugees with everything to lose. If they're still in their world when Doom strikes, they're heroes stepping up to stop him before he destroys everything. The Battleworld setup in Secret Wars also suggests a refugee angle. In the comics, heroes like Reed and the Avengers end up on Battleworld after their universes are destroyed. The MCU could have the Fantastic Four arrive in the sacred timeline after their world collapses, joining forces with the Avengers to prevent Doom from creating his own Battleworld. This would make Doomsday about the multiverse's collapse and Secret Wars about the fight to restore it, with the Fantastic Four as either desperate survivors or determined heroes. Whether they're heroes or refugees, the Fantastic Four's story is going to hit us in the feels. As Marvel's first family, their bond is what makes them special. Reed and Sue are married, Johnny's the hot-headed brother, and Ben's the loyal friend who struggles with his transformation. If they're refugees, imagine the pain of losing their home, their 1960s retro world, and everything they've built. They'd be fighting not just for survival, but to keep their family together in a strange, new reality. That's some heavy stuff. Even as heroes, their role won't be easy. Facing Dr. Doom, their oldest enemy, means confronting past failures. Reed's guilt over his rivalry with Doom could drive him to take risks, while Sue might have to hold the team together under pressure. Johnny and Ben could clash with other heroes like the cocky Thunderbolts or the battle-hardened X-Men, adding drama to the mix. The Russo brothers have said Doomsday will be a 2.5-hour epic, so there's room for these emotional beats alongside the action. There's also the question of Franklin and Valeria, their kids in the comics. If the MCU introduces them, even as a hint in First Steps, it could raise the stakes. The rumor about Doom weaponizing Franklin suggests a heartbreaking betrayal, pushing the Fantastic Four to fight harder, whether they're heroes or refugees. Either way, their family dynamic will make their story stand out in a movie packed with characters. The inclusion of Fox's X-Men and the Thunderbolts complicates things. The X-Men, like Professor X and Magneto, are from another universe, so they might also be refugees, creating a parallel with the Fantastic Four. Maybe they team up as outsiders, sharing knowledge about surviving a multiversal collapse. Or maybe they're heroes brought in by Doctor Strange to fight Doom, clashing with the Fantastic Four over strategy. The Thunderbolts, rebranded as the New Avengers, add another layer. In Thunderbolts, they're a team of anti-heroes led by Bucky Barnes, but Doomsday picks up 14 months later, with Sam Wilson's Captain America suing them over the Avengers' name. This conflict could make the Fantastic Four mediators, trying to unite everyone against Doom. If they're refugees, they might sympathize with the Thunderbolts' outsider status. If they're heroes, they could rally both teams to focus on the real threat. This mix of characters suggests Doomsday will be chaotic, with heroes from different realities and agendas. The Fantastic Four's role, heroes or refugees, will depend on how they navigate this mess. Their scientific minds and family bond could make them the key to uniting everyone, but only if they can overcome their own struggles. So, here's our big theory. The Fantastic Four will start as refugees but become heroes in Avengers Doomsday. In First Steps, their battle with Galactus triggers an incursion, destroying their 1960s retro universe. Dr. Doom, possibly introduced in a cameo, manipulates this crisis to gain power, maybe even targeting their family to hurt Reed. The Fantastic Four escape to the sacred timeline, arriving as refugees with nowhere to go. They're lost, grieving their world and desperate to protect each other. But here's the twist. Their knowledge of incursions in Doom makes them vital to the Avengers. Reed's genius matches Doom's, Sue's leadership keeps the team grounded, and Johnny and Ben bring heart and muscle. They team up with Sam Wilson's Avengers, the Thunderbolts, and the X-Men, turning from survivors into Earth's mightiest heroes. By Doomsday's end, they'll set the stage for Secret Wars, where they'll help rebuild the multiverse, possibly sacrificing their chance to return home to save everyone else. This theory fits the multiverse saga's themes of loss, redemption, and unity. It also honors the Fantastic Four's comic legacy as explorers who face impossible odds but always come through as a family. Whether they start as refugees or heroes, their journey will be about finding their place in a fractured multiverse.